The glorious Model D wireless has been my go-to gaming mouse this year with its ergonomic design, lightweight build, and competitive $80 price tag. Though I've still found myself going back to the Razer Viper, as there's just been a couple areas where I felt it was much superior for my playstyle. When I saw Razer announce the Deathadder V3 Pro a couple months back, it looked like the perfect cross between these two mice, and I ordered it instantly. I can easily say that this is one of the best Ergo mice on the market, but at its $150 price tag, it can be a hard sell. If you're currently looking at the Model D and new Deathadder V3 Pro, I hope this video will help you decide which is more worth your money. Design-wise, the Deathadder looks much cleaner, it has a full solid construction, whereas Model D has holes at the back and underside to reduce weight. The Deathadder comes in at an impressive 63 grams, but it's only a slight difference from the 69 gram Model D. It's noticeable when holding them side by side, but I found it makes little to no difference to my gaming experience in daily use. I really don't feel any quicker with my movements because of that weight reduction. The stock feet on both are pretty impressive, making for a smooth glide on my desk pad. I think the Deathadders are slightly better, but not enough to warrant an upgrade over. Especially when there's third-party options like the Super Glides available, it's not too big of an issue. Shape really is king, and being so used to Ergo mics from working with the MX Master line, having a similar level of comfort in gaming was an easy decision for me. The Deathadder isn't a new mouse entirely, but went away from the flared design it used to have in favor of this straighter profile that's in line with the rest of the mouse body. Both mice are raised up on the left side as well as the back, which provides support that's really nice to have for those longer sessions. Holding either in hand, you'll feel a large part of the weight underneath the left click, which I feel gives more control when playing FPS games. The hump also makes for a nice spot at the side to rest your thumb with easy access to both side buttons. For dimensions, the Deathadder measures 128mm in length, 68mm in width, and 44mm tall. The Model D measures 128mm in length, 61mm wide, and 42mm tall. I have pretty average sized hands and find both shapes to be comfortable, but they're definitely aimed towards those with bigger hands. As of right now, there's no smaller version of the Deathadder, but the Model D- is an option if your hands are on the smaller end. Even though the two mice are very similar in terms of shape, in use they actually feel quite different from one another. The Deathadder has this very grippy texture that's comfortable to rest your fingers on. For long hours, I've noticed it stays more comfortable and feels less slippery. Do note though that once you break it in, it will get significantly less pronounced, but even then, it's still nice to have in hand. The Model D's plastic, on the other hand, is very smooth and doesn't have as premium of a feel to it. Going back to it after being used to Razer's mice, it does feel a lot cheaper. Overall, the Deathadder just feels more solid and has a better build. I honestly feel like the Model D's honeycomb cutouts just make it feel cheaper and take away from its aesthetic. As far as buttons go, both mice just have two on the right side. The switches Razer went with here have a pretty tactile feel to them and satisfying sound when clicked. They have the same texture as the rest of the mouse, so are nice to use. The Model D's are placed slightly higher, so aren't as quick to get at, but still have a nice feel to them. They aren't on the same level as Razer's, but aren't bad by any means. Looking over to the scroll wheel here on the Model D, has ridges throughout which make gripping it easy, and the scroll itself is super smooth. With the Deathadder, its scroll wheel is improved greatly when compared to the one on the Viper, but still has a slight rattle to it. Aside from that though, it still feels nice, and the rubber on the wheel makes it comfortable to use. The Model D has the DPI button at the top right behind, which I know a lot of people like, but I don't find myself cycling changes enough where it's that big of a deal being on the bottom. What I hate though is that Razer consolidated both power and DPI into a single button rather than just having a proper switch. There's been plenty of times where I've meant to turn off the mouse, but instead just changed the DPI stage. It is a small thing, but it's genuinely so annoying to have to deal with. The DPI indicator at the top though does make it easy to see which stage you're actually on. It works the same on the Model D, but is on the underside instead. While we're down here, let's take a look at Glorious's BAMF sensor. It has a max DPI of 19,000 and a 1000 Hz polling rate. Comparing it on paper to Razer's Focus Pro sensor, theirs looks like a massive improvement, tracking at 1000 Hz or up to 4000 Hz if you buy the wireless hyperpolling dongle, and up to a 30,000 DPI level. Though in day-to-day use, the difference is negligible. I play around a 650 DPI, and both mice honestly feel the same. I noticed a slight improvement on the Deathadder with its stock feet, but the tracking itself doesn't feel any smoother. Unless you're a very competitive player, I don't think spending the $30 to get that hyperpolling dongle makes any sense, especially when it'll only drain the battery more. Speaking of, with the Deathadder, you can expect to get somewhere around 90 hours of battery life and 71 from the Model D. I can't say with full certainty how accurate these numbers are, but I've charged the Deathadder maybe twice and the Model D only a handful of times in these 6+ months I've had it. Though you obviously will get a hit in battery performance with the Model D if you choose to use the RGB lighting. There's 3 different zones, 2 on each side of the mouse, and then 1 on the side of the scroll wheel, all which can be configured within the Glorious Core software. However, there's a big problem with the lighting, as it's not possible to have a solid white color, and many other hues just look off from what they're supposed to be. I'm not really sure if this is just an issue with my unit, because I've seen some others talking about it on Reddit. The Deathadder, on the other hand, doesn't have any sort of lighting, just a solid black logo. Though I'm completely fine with this, as I've never really been much of an RGB guy. I'll never stick it with solid colors, and I think that with a mouse it's kind of pointless as you're covering up the effects 90% of the time. So as I just mentioned, Glorious Core is the software that you use to configure your lighting effects, but obviously your DPI stages, polling rate, all this stuff is done in there. Synapse is what you'll have to use for the Deathadder to do those same things, but luckily on both mice the onboard memory will keep track of your settings so you don't have to load it up every time. The last main feature to talk about here is the mouse switches, and it's where I find myself ultimately choosing the Deathadder over the Model D most days. Razer's optical switches are rated for 90 million clicks and provide what they say is the fastest response time in any gaming mouse. That's kind of just another one of their marketing talking points, because you're really not going to notice a difference in terms of latency, but the feel itself of the click is superior. You get nice tactile feedback, and the texture on the mouse buttons makes pressing them feel really good. The Model D switches are still good, but don't sound or feel quite on that same level. The smooth plastic on the mouse button, in my opinion, makes it feel less premium and not as satisfying when you're swiping a COD. Wrapping it up, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that on features alone, the Deathadder is the better mouse. You get noticeably better mouse clicks that make gaming more satisfying. The texture of the mouse is super grippy and helps us stay comfortable for those late night sessions. At 63 grams, it's ultra light and the build quality is really solid, making this a fantastic choice. Though it does cost $150, which I think is a very big ask considering what Glorious offers at $70 cheaper. You still have pretty much the same ergonomic shape that if you know is what you want will serve you very well. While the build quality isn't quite on par, you're still getting a very high quality mouse that feels responsive and won't hold you back in game. I have trouble recommending the Deathadder at its MSRP and think that until it goes on sale closer to $100, it's just not enough of an upgrade. Really, the only audience I would recommend it to at this price is very competitive gamers who want the best of the best in terms of sensor technology, response time, and a lightweight mouse. Otherwise, for casual play, the Model D just excels. I made it for months with basically no issues and have recommended it time and time again. So that's going to do it for this review. I hope I was able to help any of you in the market for either of these mice come to a final decision, but if you still have any questions, feel free to drop a comment. With that though, I've been Cole. I'll see you guys next time.